Kagome awakened from a very uncomfortable slumber. Her limbs and back ached from sleeping right side up against a hard cave wall, so much so that for a moment when she rose up to stretch them, she feared they might be broken. I wonder how long I was asleep, the Miko wondered as she stretched her limbs while exiting the broom closet. Well, at least INUYASHA hasn't found me yet, she thought to herself. I must keep moving to find a way out. I know I can do it, she said to herself as she began to run down the corridor again. Meanwhile, back in the master bedchamber, INUYASHA was sitting on the large bed with his hands in his hair. He hadn't been able to get a wink of sleep that night for the fact that he couldn't decide whether or not to go after Kagome. Even more so, he was still shaken up by what she called him. The very word seemed to echo in his ears ever since he heard it that previous night. Monster, monster, monster. The dog god sighed. She had every right to call me that. I lost my control of my full demon. What am I going to do? Kagome won't even come near me now, let alone touch me. How can I? INUYASHA said to himself as he was about to continue, but was cut off when the sliding door of the room opened. Hey, brother, I wanted to... Bunza started as he walked into the room, but stopped when he saw how miserable INUYASHA looked. Wow, was it that bad last night in the bed? The lynx child asked, raising an eyebrow. This made INUYASHA's head shot up and turned as red as his kimono. What? How did you... even... Duh! The dog god stuttered, but then he sighed and ran his clawed hand through his bangs. Bunza, me and Kagome didn't do anything like that last night. We got into a fight and I turned into a full demon, INUYASHA explained. Bunza's eyes widened. Wait, you what? That only happens when your life is badly threatened. There's no other way to save yourself, the little lynx exclaimed. I know, I'm not sure how it happened either, but when it happened, I felt like I lost my patience, because Kagome kept saying she wanted to leave. But I felt myself return to normal when she begged me not to hurt her. After that, she called me a monster and ran out of the room, the dog god said in a broken-hearted way. Bunza sighed and walked over to his brother and sat next to him. INUYASHA, I'm going to be honest here. If you want this woman to love you, you may have to consider how she feels about all of this. You did kidnap her from her home and marked her without her permission. Bunza trailed off, biting his bottom lip. INUYASHA said nothing for a moment, but then he sighed. I know what I did was wrong, but if I had asked Kagome to marry me, do you think she would say yes to a half-demon? The dog god asked sadly. Well, your mother said yes to your father, the lynx child explained. That's because my father saved her village and promised to protect it forever. Not to mention he was a full, strong demon, not an abomination like me, INUYASHA stated. Bunza frowned. You're not an abomination, INUYASHA. Just because some rotten humans think that about half-demons, that doesn't mean it's true, the lynx child shouted angrily. INUYASHA then looked up at his brother with a sad smile. Thanks for that, Bunza, he said as he got up from the bed and began to walk towards the door. Where are you going? Where do you think you're going? The lynx child asked. INUYASHA looked back at him. I'm gonna go hang out with my kind for a bit. If you see Kagome, then tell her I'm sorry, the dog god requested, but Bunza only shook his head. Brother, that's something you have to do for yourself, he stated. INUYASHA looked down. I know, he stated sadly as he left the room, closing the sliding door in his wake. Kagome's knees were aching from running for so long. Her bare feet had forming blisters on them, and she was hungry, very hungry, and running for the past few hours only made her hunger grow. She stopped running after she fully acknowledged her ailments and put her hand on the cave-like wall to catch her breath. After a few moments, the Miko looked up to see she was in some kind of steam vent-like area, where thick steam came from large cracks in the ground. Kagome walked up to the small steam vent and held both of her hands to the warm steam. Oh, that's so nice. She trailed off and decided to sit in front of the steam vent for a while, so she sat on her knees in front of it and held her hands close to it, but not close enough to get them damp. The heat was so nice that Kagome had hardly noticed 7 minutes went by, or that that her hair was a little bit damp because of the steam vent behind her. That's when the Miko heard children laughing from around the corner of the steam vent area. Curious, Kagome stood up to dust off her Miko kimono and walked over to the corner, peeking behind it, and gasped. She saw 6 young children, 6 of them. 6 of them, 3 boys and 3 girls, playing, and they were all half-demons. The oldest-looking child was a girl who looked about 11. She had short turquoise hair and short ponytail, light olive green eyes, pointed ears, and was barefoot and wore a yellowish tunic and purple shell necklace. The next oldest child, or rather children, were identical twin boys who looked about 10. They both had green and orange hair, but one of the twins was a bit taller than the other, and had more green hair than orange, while the slightly shorter twin had more orange hair than green. Both of the twin boys wore blue tunics, had pointy ears, were barefooted, and had light orange eyes. The next oldest-looking child, who looked about 8, was a half-goat demon. Since it was plain to see, he had a pair of goat horns on the sides of his head. He had lavender-colored hair, very tan skin, and wore a gray tunic and was barefooted. One of the youngest children was a pale young girl, who looked about 7 or 8, and had olive green hair with bangs and pigtails. She had light green eyes and wore a green tunic and was barefoot, and had small orange horns on the top of her head. Finally, the youngest of the 6 children was a girl who looked about 4 or 5, and was a half-fish demon with fin-like ears, purple hair and a messy bun, and playful blue eyes, as well as was barefoot like the others, and wore a pink tunic. Kagome was speechless. She watched the children playing and laughing. Half-demon children. They're so cute. Why are they here, though? I don't sense any full demons or humans close by, she thought to herself as she couldn't help but smile at the happy children. They were very much reminded her of the children back in her village, her home. The Miko's smile slowly faded while her village came into mind. However, when she turned to walk away, she heard a familiar voice coming into earshot, laughing with the children, who got more excited from the sound of it. Kakome's eyes widened when she turned back around to see who was now with the children. INUYASHA. The dog god opened his arms to the 6 children, who were all yelling his name, and tackled him rather than just hugging him. "Whoa there, guys. Can I get up at least?" INUYASHA said, laughing, as he picked up the purple-haired girl and tossed her up in the air, catching her in his arms a few times, making her giggle. Let's think about it," the twin boy with more green hair than orange trailed off, pretending to think, and after a moment he looked at his twin brother, who had more orange hair than green, and answered for him. "Nope, not a chance," the other twin stated. INUYASHA stared at the 2 twins, who were holding his left side down on the ground. "Oh gosh, I'm so scared," INUYASHA mocked playfully as he ruffled the 2 boys' hair, making them laugh. "If you introduce us to our new sister, we'll let you up. Deal?" asked the girl with the olive green hair, as she was holding down INUYASHA's right side with the turquoise-haired girl and the lavender-haired boy, who nodded. "Yeah, please, INUYASHA, can we meet Kagome?" the lavender boy-haired asked. The dog god turned to him and gently placed his hand on his head and softly ruffled his hair. "I'm sorry, Shion. Maybe later," he proclaimed. The turquoise-haired girl next to the lavender boy frowned. "But INUYASHA, you promised to introduce us to Kagome today," she exclaimed while straightening her high ponytail. INUYASHA sighed. "I know, Wasagi. I'm sorry about that, but it's not a good time," he stated. "Why not, big brother?" the purple-haired girl with fin ears asked curiously. The dog god smiled at the youngest child and in the group, and as he sat up and put her in his lap. "Well, it's nothing for you guys to worry about. How about this? INUYASHA started, but was cut off when Moroku entered the room. "INUYASHA, my lord, Totosai has requested your presence. It's urgent," stated the monk. INUYASHA sighed and then looked at the children around him on the ground. "I'm sorry, guys. I promise we'll hang out later," he said in a sad voice as he stood up, only to have Ai grab his left leg and cling to it. "Don't leave, big brother," she whined, giving the dog god a pouty face. The dog god chuckled and picked up the little girl and rested her on his shoulder. "I promise, Ai. I'll come right back after I'm done talking with Totosai, and then all of us can hang out until we drop. Sound good?" he asked. I smiled at this. "Okay, you promise?" the little girl questioned. INUYASHA smiled as he took Ai off his shoulder and set her down on her feet as she stood next to the turquoise-haired girl, Asagi. "I promise. Now you kids behave, okay? I'll be back." He smiled as he patted Ai on the head and left the room with Moroku. Kagome, who was still in hiding, couldn't believe what she had witnessed. "I thought INUYASHA was just another selfish, lying demon, but he's so kind and gentle with those children. They may be half demons as well, but it's hard to hate them when they're so sweet and adorable," she trailed off in thought, not realizing she was sticking her head out too far from behind the entrance of the steam vent area, and once the 6 children turned around, they gasped. "Wait, she wouldn't be..." The olive-haired girl trailed off, putting her fingers to her lips. She's gotta be, Asagi trailed off as well. She's definitely, the twins finished. Kagome's eyes widened when they realized they were looking at her and talking about her. Hi, she greeted shyly. Sister! The 6 children shouted excitedly as they ran up to Kagome and hugged her waist. The Miko was unsure of what to do for a moment, but then she sighed and patted some of the children on their heads. I can't believe it. You're more pretty than INUYASHA said you'd be, I exclaimed, jumping onto Kagome's back, which surprised the young Miko. Asagi frowned. She scolded before sighing and looking up at Kagome. I'm sorry, Sister Kagome. I here loves meeting new people, she said nervously, looking at the half-fish girl. Kagome then carefully took Ai off of her back and into her arms, at which Ai giggled and wrapped her arms around the Miko, who couldn't help but smile and hold the little girl closer. I'm sorry, but who... Kagome trilled off, making Asagi's eyes widen. I'm sorry, I'm Asagi, the girl with said, straightening her turquoise ponytail again before continuing. This is Mogi, Asagi stated, pointing to the girl with olive green pigtails and was waving at the Miko. Hi, Kagome, the Mogi said sweetly, making Kagome smile at her and wave back as Asagi introduced the other children. These are the twins. The one with more green hair is Roku, and the one with more orange hair is Dai, as stated the turquoise-haired girl, ushering towards the twins. Hey, Roku said, giving Kagome a flirtatious smile and a wink. Do you have a little sister as cute as you by any chance? Dai asked, earning an elbow in the side from his twin brother. What? He asked, rubbing his side. Shut up, that's what, Roku gritted. Sorry, I'm just asking because who wouldn't want someone as cute as Kagome as their mate? You said it yourself that INUYASHA was lucky to be marrying her, Dai stated. The boy's words made Kagome blush. Well, Dai's right, you really are pretty, big sister, the lavender boy trailed off shyly while blushing. Kagome turned to a boys. Thank you, she said, as she noticed the lavender boy was staring deeply into her eyes in wonder. Is something wrong? The Miko asked. The boy blushed again and looked down. My name is Shion, Sister Kagome. I'm sorry for staring at you. It's just, your eyes are so sparkly and pretty. Shion trailed off. Kagome blinked. Oh, thank you, she said, knowing her face must have been red as a tomato by now. Big sister, will you play with us since Big Brother INUYASHA is busy? Asked Ai sweetly. Kagome's eyes widened a bit. The Miko started, but was cut off by all 6 children. Please, they all begged with big puppy eyes that made Kagome's heart melt. Well, I suppose it would be fun. All right, she said, making the children cheer. Cool, come on, Kagome, we'll play in our garden, Roku stated, grabbing Kagome's left hand while her right held on to Ai, started to pull her along with him. Yeah, the garden's our favorite place to hang out, Dai agreed as he too pulled on Kagome's left hand so she would follow him as well as his brother. The 2 boys pulled the Miko along with them. Shion and Mugi pressed Kagome's back to get her moving faster, while Asagi led the way. As Kagome went on, much to her surprise, she began to wonder how INUYASHA was doing, and for some odd reason, it bothered her that she didn't know.